From the time I was little, something in me was always a little off. I never listened to the whole story. Only half of it. My grandmother called me a good-for-nothing who was financially burdening the family. She bought a little boy to be my younger brother and told me to take good care of him. I understood the part about buying a child, so I immediately called the police and reported her for illegal human trafficking. My father pointed at my face and cursed me for being unfilial, accusing me of cutting off his family line. I obeyed him back into his room while he slept that night and used a knife to cut off his lineage. My father screamed in agony. In the chaos, he accidentally killed me. When I opened my eyes again, I had transmigrated into the female lead of a melodramatic abuse novel. After 10 years of marriage to the cruel male lead, his childhood sweetheart had just returned from abroad and was undergoing kidney surgery. He dragged me to the hospital and cruelly ordered me to donate a kidney to his precious first love. I nodded obediently, went out and bought a pig, and on the spot dug out the pig's kidney and handed it to him. Lily, are you an idiot? I told you to donate a kidney. A human kidney. Do you have any idea how important Wendy is to me? She once saved my life. I have to repay that debt of gratitude. I thought it over for a moment and nodded in understanding. I'm sorry I misunderstood earlier. My docility made him pause slightly. The fury in his eyes cooled by several degrees, and his tone softened as well. It's fine, go get yourself ready. I nodded, then gently poured him a glass of water, perhaps feeling a bit guilty about shouting at me. Drank it, soon after. He said he felt sleepy and told me to make proper pre-op preparations, while he went to rest in the ward. Smiling, I followed behind him. After watching him lie down, I called a nurse over. Nurse, the kidney donor is ready. I watched, deeply moved as the male lead was wheeled into the operating room. When the red light above the operating room door came on, tears welled up in my eyes. I never expected him to be willing to donate a kidney, just to repay a life-saving favor. I had to tell his childhood sweetheart about this touching act. Lily, why are you still here? Shouldn't you be in the operating room? A sharp voice questioned me from behind. I turned back in confusion and rummaged through my memories until I recognized the woman in front of me. She was the male lead's childhood sweetheart, Wendy Cooper. I tilted my head. Wendy, shouldn't you be in surgery right now? She strode over quickly and pointed at the operating room. If you're here, then who's in there? I answered honestly, the male. Oh, right. I corrected myself, Matt. Wendy's eyes flew wide open. What? You actually let Matt go into surgery? Lily, are you stupid? I blinked my large, innocent eyes. He said. You're his childhood sweetheart and that you once saved his life. He said he had to personally repay that life-saving debt at my words. Wendy was deeply shaken, her eyes reddened slightly, as she looked at the operating room with emotion. I blinked again and asked curiously. Wendy, aren't you supposed to be having surgery? Why are you standing here? She shot me a glare. I'm going in for surgery right now. I believed her and watched her retreating figure with genuine emotion. What a pair of, I thought about it for a long time, but couldn't come up with the right words. Calling them a pair of lovebirds didn't seem right. They weren't married, Matt and I were the married couple, so that wouldn't work, but Matt didn't like me. I'd seen on TV that when a husband and wife don't love each other, can choose to divorce. I patted my slightly defective head and pulled out my phone to contact a lawyer about divorce. When Matt was wheeled out of the operating room, I dutifully went over to take care of him as his wife should. When he finally woke up and noticed the incision on his chest, he immediately demanded, Lily, what did you do to me? I blinked and answered truthfully. A kidney donation surgery. He glared at me furiously. Are you stupid, Lily? I told you to donate your kidney. Why did you donate mine? Before I could say a word, Wendy walked in with reddened eyes and threw herself into Matt's arms. Overcome with emotion, Matt. Thank you, I never imagined you'd be willing to go this far for me. Crying so hard, she looked pitiful. And he successfully dampened Matt's rage. His gaze softened, the emotions in his eyes turning as sweet as honey. Even his voice grew gentle. For you, I'd do anything. When he looked at me again, his eyes turned vicious. Can't you see I'm a patient? Hurry up and get me something to eat. I didn't want to, but I was his wife. We weren't divorced yet, so I had a responsibility. The problem was I didn't know how to cook. But he ordered me to do it anyway. Following my memories, I went home and step by step followed instructions on my phone to cook some porridge. Then brought it to the hospital. He flew into a rage and dumped my food straight into the trash. Lily, did you do this on purpose? Are you trying to kill me so you can become a widow? I blinked, then that night I started sharpening a knife. The sound of my sharpening woke Matt. When he saw the cleaver in my hand, his face went deathly pale. He screamed and ran out of the room. After that, a nurse politely escorted me out. But Matt was the one who said I should become a widow. I even went out of my way to look up what being widowed meant. And being widowed meant I would be free of my husband. After being kicked out, I felt deeply regretful that I couldn't become a widow. For a long while after that, Matt didn't call for me again. So I focused wholeheartedly on figuring out the divorce. I even drafted a divorce agreement. Half a month later, Matt called. Wendy just graduated and is still a medical intern. She wants to practice surgery. Bring your mom over and let Wendy practice on her mom. Grandma once said that girls were nothing but good for nothings. And financially burdened a family. They would eventually be married off. Once married, your husband's mother became your real mother. You were nothing but an outsider to your birth family. Once I got married, I was only allowed to acknowledge one mother in this life. My mother-in-law, but my mother-in-law was Matt's real mother. Was he sure? I hesitated. But what if she dies? He answered impatiently. Then she dies, she should consider herself lucky. That she's chosen to help Wendy practice. I thought for a moment, then asked. What if Mom doesn't agree? Matt grew even more annoyed. Don't you know how to drug her? You were so good at drugging me last time. Can't you do it again? He hung up. I tapped to end the recording. I might be a little slow, but after hearing my situation, the lawyer felt very sorry for me. Because I'm missing a screw and only ever hear half of what's said. The lawyer was worried I wouldn't remember things. He told me to record every call with Matt. He said it might help later when it came time to divide property. I'm very obedient. As soon as I hung up, I sent the recording to the lawyer. Right now, I was still Matt's wife. So I was supposed to listen to him. Grandma always said that as long as you're someone's wife, even for one day, you must listen to your husband for that day. But the police officer said, I can't break the law. After thinking it over, I called Matt back. We can't do this. It's illegal, Matt snapped impatiently. Then bring your mom to me. I'll handle it myself. Matt didn't give me a chance to refuse before hanging up again. I blinked, only then did I realize I'd forgotten to start the recording. But it was just 1 or 2 sentences. Probably not important. I was only calling my mother-in-law to meet with her son. That should be fine, right? I called my mother-in-law. By the time she arrived, I headed over as well. When I got there and went to look for her, I was told she'd already been sent into the operating room. I was surprised that fast. Had Matt drugged her and sent her in? Didn't he know that was his own mother? I went to the operating room entrance and happened to see Matt. He was holding Wendy's hand, chatting and laughing as they walked over. I stepped forward to remind him. Matt, do you even know who was sent into surgery at that? Wendy, who had been smiling, suddenly teared up. If Lily doesn't want to help me, then forget it. She doesn't trust that I'm capable enough. Lily must be worried about me. I hurriedly waved my hands. No, that's not it. I'm just worried about Matt. After all that, Matt shoved me aside impatiently. What's there to worry about? It's not my mom. I may be missing a screw, but I still had a conscience. I chased after them. What if the practice surgery fails? I know I'm not in a position to say this, but that's still a human life. Matt rolled his eyes. Practice surgeries are risky. If she dies, she dies. Oh, right, I already signed the risk consent form on your behalf. I'm your mom's family. I have the right to sign. I reached out to stop him before I could speak. Matt shoved me hard and frowned as he shut the operating room doors. Just before the doors closed, I saw Wendy turn and smile smugly at me, silently mouthing that she would never let my mom come out alive. I was pushed to the ground. I climbed back up, dusted off my pants and shook my head helplessly. The one receiving the practice surgery wasn't even my real mom. What was I worried about? I hadn't expected Matt to be this ruthless. It seemed bringing up divorce had been the right decision. The lawyer handed me the drafted divorce agreement. And I sat waiting outside the operating room. 3 hours later, they came out laughing and chatting. Matt pulled off his mask and said to me, "Cooley Lily, your mom is dead." I also had Wendy dissect her so she could study the human body. Then he tossed me a body donation consent form. Sign it with his hands in his pockets. Matt looked at me with nothing but indifference. "What kind of compensation do you want? Say it and I'll give it to you." I shook my head. "I can't sign this." "Only you can, you're her son." I quickly handed him the divorce agreement. "You don't like me and we're not suited to be husband and wife. Let's get divorced." Matt's eyes darkened sharply. "So your compensation is divorce and taking half of my assets." He slammed the divorce agreement hard into my face. "I didn't expect this, really. You're more calculating than I thought. Every clause your lawyer wrote is airtight. But why should my property go to you? If you want a divorce, fine. But only if you leave with nothing." I answered honestly, the lawyer said. "This is my right." Thinking of what Grandma always said. That once a woman marries, she should put her husband's family first. I added, "I'm doing this for your own good. If something happens to you, at least you'll still have half your assets. Otherwise, you might end up with nothing." He clenched his teeth and shouted that I was cursing him. Wendy stepped in looking aggrieved. "Matt, this is all my fault. I was too foolish and messed up during practice. Lily must be blaming me, that's why she wants to divorce you." She sobbed as she spoke. And said she would give her life to repay my mother. Crying, she even made as if to rush toward the window. Matt grabbed her and coaxed her gently. "Wendy, don't do this. It hurts me to see you like this." As he comforted her, Wendy fainted. His gaze toward me grew even more hateful. As he swept her up into his arms. Then he barked at me viciously. "There's no way I'm giving you half. If you want compensation, I can give you a little. Some assets, but anything related to the company. Don't even think about touching it." Unhappy, I went back to the lawyer and explained the situation. The lawyer gave me another divorce agreement. This one no longer divided the assets in half. Matt's company was worth billions, with enormous cash flow and monthly net profits in the millions. He also owned a great deal of fixed property. This new agreement divided the fixed assets, giving me 2/3 of them, and allocated another portion of liquid assets. Compared to company shares, it was less but far more practical. I didn't understand, so the lawyer explained. "First, ask for the moon. Then when you make a second demand, they're more likely to agree." I took the new divorce agreement and went to Matt. He glanced at it impatiently. Then even praised me for being sensible. After signing, he said, "This is your compensation. Hurry up and sign the death certificate paperwork. And take your mom away. The divorce proceedings take 1 month to complete." Hearing that, I truly didn't understand. Hadn't he even looked at his mother's face during the dissection? I said, "Matt, I can't sign this and I can't take her away. You're her son, only you can sign take her or don't. If you don't, she'll stay in the morgue forever." Matt impatiently drove me out. I went home, packed a few changes of clothes and left. He never contacted me again. Instead, Wendy kept posting on social media, showing off how well Matt treated her, where they traveled, what they did. She said it was because her practice surgery had failed, and he was taking her out to relax. A month later, the divorce proceedings were finalized and all assets had been transferred. Matt and Wendy arrived at the courthouse hand in hand. As soon as he got the divorce certificate, Andy immediately registered their marriage. She flaunted the marriage certificate in front of me, deliberately hugging and kissing Matt right before my eyes. Just then, a doctor called Matt, urging him, "Mr. Radin, your mother's body has been in the morgue for a month now. When will you come to claim it?" Matt's expression changed instantly. The air in the courthouse lobby seemed to freeze. Matt held the phone to his ear, his handsome face twisting into a knot of confusion and annoyance. Wendy, clutching her fresh marriage certificate, leaned against him, tracing circles on his chest. "What nonsense are you spouting? Matt barked into the phone, "My mother is currently on a cruise in the Mediterranean. If you want to scam me, at least do your background check." He moved to hang up, but the doctor's voice on the other end was frantic and loud enough for me to hear. "Mr. Radin, please. We have confirmed the identity via fingerprints. The police are already here. The deceased, Mrs. Margaret Radin, was brought in by your wife, ex-wife, for a practice surgery 1 month ago. You signed the consent forms. You signed the donation forms." Matt froze, the color drained from his face, leaving him looking like a sheet of paper. He slowly turned his head to look at me. I was standing there, holding my bag which contained 2/3 of his real estate portfolio. "Lily," he whispered, his voice trembling, who did you bring to the hospital that day?" I blinked, tilting my head. "Mom," I said obediently. "You told me to bring Mom." "Which Mom?" he roared, stepping toward me. Wendy looked panicked, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "Yours, of course," I explained patiently, as if talking to a child. "Grandma told me that when a woman marries, she leaves her own family behind. Her husband's mother becomes her only mother. I am a very traditional woman, Matt. I listened to you. I listened to Grandma. You said to bring Mom to let Wendy practice. You said if she dies, she dies." I paused, thinking back to the recording I had sent my lawyer. "You also said she should consider herself lucky to be helpful to Wendy." Matt staggered back. He looked at the phone, then at Wendy, whose face had gone deathly pale. "No," Matt muttered. "No, that's impossible. That was just some old woman you hired." "I don't have money to hire actors, Matt. You never gave me an allowance," I reminded him. "Shall we go to the hospital?" "The doctor sounds very anxious." The drive to the hospital was silent. Matt drove like a madman. Wendy sat in the passenger seat, biting her nails so hard they bled. I sat in the back, looking out the window, counting the trees. When we arrived at the morgue, the police were waiting, so was the hospital director. They looked grave. "Mr. Radin," the director said, wiping sweat from his forehead, "there has been a terrible misunderstanding. The intern, Dr. Cooper, she..." Matt didn't listen. He pushed past the police and stormed into the cold room. Ideally, he shouldn't have been allowed in, but Matt Radin was a powerful man in the city, or he used to be, before he signed the divorce papers. He pulled back the white sheet. I stood in the doorway. I didn't want to look. I remembered what Matt had said about Wendy dissecting the body to study human anatomy. A guttural, animalistic scream echoed through the basement. It didn't sound like a human. It sounded like a wolf caught in a trap. Matt fell to his knees, clutching the edge of the gurney. The body, well, Wendy had been very thorough in her studies. Wendy walked in slowly, trembling. When she saw the face of the cadaver, or what was left of it, she let out a shriek and covered her mouth. "No! No!" Wendy cried, backing away. "Lily, you set me up. You told me this was a stranger. You told me this was nobody." I looked at her, confused. "I never said that. You asked if I trusted you. I said I was worried. You said you would never let her come out alive. You were very confident, Wendy." Matt stood up. His movements were jerky, like a broken puppet. He turned slowly to face Wendy. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with a madness that made the police officers reach for their holsters. "You," Matt rasped, "you dissected her." "Matt, listen to me." Wendy grabbed his arm. "I didn't know. I thought it was her mother. I thought we were just getting rid of a burden." "You cut her open." Matt stepped closer. "My mother, you cut out her." "I was practicing." Wendy screamed, tears streaming down her face. "You told me to. You said, if she dies, she dies. You signed the papers, Matt. You signed them." "That was true." I nodded in agreement. He did sign them. He was very impatient. Matt looked at his hands, the hands that had signed the consent form, the hands that had pushed me away when I tried to tell him the truth. Then he looked at Wendy, his precious childhood sweetheart, the woman he loved more than life itself. He didn't see a sweetheart anymore. He saw a butcher. "I'm going to kill you," Matt whispered. He lunged. It took 3 police officers to pull Matt off Wendy. She was bleeding from where he had bitten her, actually bitten her, on the neck. It was very unsanitary. Matt was sedated and handcuffed to a hospital bed. Wendy was arrested on the spot. It turned out that performing surgery without a license, resulting in death, and then desecrating a corpse is a very serious crime. Even if the family signed a consent form, the doctor has to be a real doctor. Wendy was just an intern who hadn't passed her boards. I sat in the corridor, drinking a juice box the nice policeman gave me. My lawyer arrived. He looked at the chaos, then at me. He adjusted his glasses. "Lily," he said softly, "you have excellent timing." "I just listened to instructions," I said. "Is the divorce fully legal now?" "Yes, the assets have been transferred. You are the majority owner of the Radin family's real estate holdings. However, Mr. Radin still retains the company shares." "That's good," I said. "He needs money to pay for his lawyers." But as it turned out, he didn't have much money left. The news broke the next morning. CEO Matt Radinsen's own mother T.O.B. butchered by mistress. The stock market is a fickle thing, it doesn't like matricide, it really doesn't like CEOs who accidentally sign their mothers over to be dissected by unlicensed lovers. The Raiden Corp stock plummeted, it dropped so fast the trading had to be halted, but the damage was done, banks called in their loans, partners pulled out of deals. Matt had the company, yes, but the company was now a sinking ship loaded with debt, and because I had taken the safe assets, the buildings, the land, the cash, I was insulated. I watched the news on the TV in my new apartment. It was a penthouse, I liked it, it was quiet. 3 months later, I went to visit Matt. He wasn't in prison, his lawyer had successfully argued that the shock of the event had caused a psychotic break. He was in a high-security psychiatric facility. When I walked into the visitation room, he was staring at the wall. He looked thin, his hair, usually perfectly styled, was a mess. "Matt?" I called out softly. He turned. When he saw me, his eyes widened. For a second, I saw the old arrogance flaring up. "Lily," he sneered, though his voice was weak, you did this, you planned this." I sat down and placed a thermos on the table. "I brought you soup. I learned to cook it properly this time, no poison." He stared at the thermos. "Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you scream it was my mother?" "I tried," I said earnestly. I said, "Matt, do you know who is in there?" I said, "That's a human life. You pushed me down, you said I was annoying." I leaned forward. "Matt, I am a little stupid, you always said so. I can only do one thing at a time. You told me to divorce you and take my mother away. I divorced you. Sadly, I couldn't take Mom away because you signed her over to science." "You devil," he whispered, tears leaked from his eyes. "I loved Wendy, I gave her everything." "Wendy is in prison," I told him. "She tried to say you forced her, but the nurses heard her bragging about the surgery. She got 20 years, she blames you. By the way, she says you set her up to get rid of your mother so you wouldn't have to pay for her retirement home." Matt laughed. It was a dry, cracking sound. "And you? You're rich now?" "Yes, I sold 2 of the office buildings last week. I'm going to travel. I heard the Mediterranean is nice. Maybe I'll go on a cruise, like your mom." Matt slammed his fist against the glass partition. "Get out. Get out." I stood up. "Okay, I'll listen to you, Matt, I'll go." I walked to the door, then stopped. "Oh, I forgot to tell you, my kidney? The one you wanted?" He glared at me, panting. "I went to the doctor for a checkup. It turns out I have a rare condition. My kidneys are failing. If I had donated one, I would have died on the table." I smiled, a genuine, small smile. "So, in a way, being stupid and buying that pig kidney saved my life, and since you killed your mom to save Wendy, and Wendy went to jail, I guess I'm the only one who survived." I waved goodbye. "Take care, Matt." I walked out of the asylum and into the bright sunlight. My lawyer was waiting for me by the car. He opened the door. "Did you get closure, Ms. Lily?" "I think so," I said, sliding into the leather seat. I pulled out my phone. There was a message from my father, my biological father, the one who had killed me in my past life before I transmigrated here, or rather, the contact was labeled Dad, but it was just a number I had blocked long ago. I deleted the contact. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The female lead of this abuse novel used to be weak, she used to be a victim, and me? The transmigrator? Everyone thought I was missing a screw. Maybe I was. I remembered the knife I used to cut off my father's lineage in my previous life. I remembered the pig kidney. I remembered Matt's signature on the death certificate. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, metal object. It was a literal screw. I had found it on the ground the day I transmigrated. I carried it everywhere. "Miss Lily, where to?" the driver asked. I rolled the screw between my fingers. It felt cold and hard. "The airport," I said. "I want to go see the world, and maybe." I looked out at the passing city, at the Raiden Corp tower which was now dark and empty. "Maybe I'll buy a hospital," I mused. "I hear the management at City General is looking for new leadership. They have terrible oversight regarding interns." The lawyer chuckled nervously. "You're joking, right?" I blinked my large, innocent eyes at him. "I never joke. I just listen to the story." I closed my eyes and listened to the hum of the engine. The story of the abusive CEO and his White Lotus lover was over. The story of Lily, the girl who was a little off, was just beginning. And this time, I would write the whole thing myself.